Cyber season is in full swing with our pals Isotope and Native Instruments.
Get huge discounts on everything from Guitar Rig 7,
Complete 14 bundles,
and one of our favorites here at the Cult and Culture Podcast,
Ozone 11 EQ. Go to isotope.com
and nativeinstruments.com
to feast on the audio goodness. Yum.
You can also get additional savings on other softwares by using the code
RUIN10.
DistroKid now also has a motherfucking app. The DistroKid app is available for iOS and Android. You can download it at distrokid.com/app/, or you can get it in the App Store.
Fuck. All right, we're rolling.
Planet P
Presents
Cult and Culture Podcast.
This is episode 33 of the Cult and Culture Podcast. I'm Justin Pearson.
And I'm Luke Henshaw.
Man, this episode's pretty wild. Bobby Bray, who might as well be my brother at this point. He is so fucking rad. Obviously known for his work with the Locust, Holy Molar, currently in INUS. He does a bunch of wild ass shit.
Smart and sweet fucking dude.
Yeah. We did a volume before we started doing like the official episodes of this podcast a long time ago, and it was so densely populated, the stuff he talked about. So I'm glad we got time to actually dive into things. I think we could probably do like an entire season with him.
Oh, guaranteed.
Yeah. It's crazy though. I like that we dove into the business side of music, and he is very, very well educated and just shit all over Spotify, which is pretty interesting. If you're getting this podcast on Spotify, joke's on you. Or joke's on us, actually. Joke's on the artist who don't get paid. So
we've come full circle.
Yeah. But yeah, Bobby's just so rad. He's so humble.
And talented. It's
fucked up. He's a genius. It's pretty wild. He's definitely a genius. I'm grateful that the universe brought us together. He's just a great dude. So I'm psyched that we got to do this podcast with him. With that being said, I want to say what's up to Bifocal Media. We've been working with them. They gave me this awesome anti-arrow shirt. They also did this Locust safety second body last skateboard, which ties into a lot of things, obviously into the Locust and Bobby being on this episode. But you can get this from Bifocal Media. It's limited. It's autographed by Neil Burke. So the Neil Burke thing, not only was he in Men's Recovery Project, one of the best bands ever, but he is doing the artwork for the new Planet B record. So there's a lot of like full circle
ties,
incestuousness, whatever you want to call it. But if you go to the Bifocal website and orders anything and put CultPod, that's CULTPOD, you can get 10% off your order for the first 100 orders of people that are getting hip to that discount code. There's tons of shit. There's a bunch of our related stuff there. There's legendary bands shirts on there. They're a great company. I highly recommend people supporting them. They pay their artist that they make shirts for very well, unlike Spotify. Check it out and check this out.
Love you, Bobby.
What up? I'm Bobby Bray. I play music. I make sounds. I do things. I've devoted my life to audio and sound, the sense of hearing. And that took on several forms, one of which is playing music, guitar mostly, teaching, live sound engineering. And
the bands.
So, one of them is the Locust. And then another one is the Institute for Navigating the Universal Self, otherwise known as INUS, sometimes pronounced as anus. And another anus would be Holy Molar. And then do some solo stuff occasionally.
Yeah. All right. That's a pretty substantial amount of stuff. Your teaching is insane, but we'll get to that maybe later. I wanted to start off by addressing how we met and how I perceived you and maybe how you perceived yourself in the world of being a 19-year-old, 18-year-old. I don't know how old you were, but when we started the Locust, you were like a death metal dude, and you and Dave Astor were out in the streets. I thought I heard drunk, but you were looking for a bass player, and you asked Aaron Richards from Antioch Arrow, and it was born. We were supposed to sound like Crossed Out, and we didn't, unfortunately.
Well, that's probably good because Crossed Out already existed. So.
Yeah, it is a good launching point, but I figured we could launch in a cooler direction. We got there eventually, but anyhow.
Well, that wasn't really the coolest era of my life, I would say, but it was the awkward time. I guess the awkwardness of junior high extended into high school and then maybe a little bit beyond. So yeah, I guess I was around 18, 19, something like that. Because I was hanging out with Dave Astor because we'd had another band called Low Life, which was actually named after a Crossed Out song, and that had this guy Anthony Clerico, and it was kind of weird because I was bridging out of death metal and kind of getting into hardcore.
Bridging out, that's just a fun.
I mean, I don't know, because it was the most intense music I could find at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I was stoked on the crazy changes.
Of death metal.
Of death metal, yeah.
And the pinnacle was Deicide.
I mean, they're the Beatles of death metal from that era. Yeah. And so, I was like, trying to start a band, and then like Dave Astor wouldn't start a band with me. I was like, dude, let's start a band. And he's like, no, but then he was like going to start a band with Anthony. I'm like, you're going to start a band with that dude? And I'm starting a band with that dude. Like,
Yeah.
guess what? I'm in your band already, man.
So you forced yourself.
I forced myself in there because he was awesome,
Yeah.
And we were kind of both going through the same death metal hardcore crossover weird thing. And so
Well, real quick, let's just throw this piece of knowledge out there. Some people may know and may not know, but Dave Astor's dad was in Battalion of Saints, which is fucking kind of insane. And then also, like, when Dave came on the scene as a drummer, he was just ripping, like, right away. Like, like a lot of people are like, it's my first band. He was just like, no, he was fucking great right away. So anyhow, sorry.
Yeah,
Dave Astor.
it's good. You should talk to Dave Astor sometime.
Props to Dave Astor, yeah.
Dave's awesome.
Yeah.
And he's still down the death metal path, of course. But so anyway, we started the band, and then after that, I guess that band kind of broke up. We had another band, Evolved as One, and then we started Slack, which had Josh, who was the singer of a cool band called Honeywell, from Riverside. So Dave and I would drive up to Corona.
I grew up with that guy.
He's awesome.
Yeah, Honeywell.
Yeah, such a great band.
And so we would go up there every weekend to go rehearse, and then eventually that band kind of like just logistically was just too hard. And then and actually a Slack song is the first Locust song.
Yeah.
Sever the Toe was actually a Slack song first, but it wasn't called that.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever Josh called it, like Paraquat or some weird stuff. Yeah. About like spraying and crops or something.
Oh yeah.
Which was awesome that he was like deep into it. But then that's when we wandered the streets of Hillcrest, and we're like, we need a bass player, and we started just asking anyone who I would not do this now, but anyone who looked cool, like, that guy looks cool, let's go talk. Like, oh, it's the guy from Antioch Arrow. Like, hey, and he's like, oh, I don't play bass, but my friend does. And he's like, oh, and then he said it was you, and we knew you, and that was kind of like Swing Kids had already started, and like Dave and I I guess we were into struggle, but then we were just like, I don't know, like he like changed his style, and now Swing Kids is not hardcore enough for us or whatever at that point. So we were just like, our initial thought was like, and then we're like, well, actually, he does have good bass equipment. He still has that struggle setup. Like, let's hit him up. Like,
Same. I still have the same fucking gear. Yeah,
that's what I said. It's good. It lasted.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what happened, and then to our surprise, you were actually into it,
Dude, okay, so I'm living with the original guitar player for Antioch Arrow, who's awesome, one of the most influential bands ever, and he comes home, and he's like, these two guys are looking for a bass player. They want to start a band like Crossed Out. And then he kind of explained who you are, and I'm like, that's fucking Bobby and Dave, dude. That's so crazy. And the fact that it was like supposed to sound like Crossed Out, and someone from Antioch Arrow was telling me that it just, everything was like, oh yeah, of course, like that's gonna have to happen. Everything, the stars were aligned, I suppose. So
yeah, well, it worked out.
But you like departed, right? Or what'd you say? You what was the term? Death metal? You like were departed.
Veered.
You were
I took the fork in the road.
bridged out.
I bridged out of it. Yeah.
Because I remember like you were still fully invested in death metal, and then at some point there was I think you discovered weird shit, and then you were like on this other trajectory.
Oh yeah, that was later. I guess a few years later, because I guess I don't know. I like Crossed Out and Drop Dead was really like that 5-inch split was really the bridge for me. Because I like heard that I was like, I'm listening to the most intense music ever, and then I heard
seeing
that.
it live was just insane. Because I mean, no offense to like Deicide live. I mean, they were pretty cool, but like seeing Crossed Out live, just we were talking to Tad about this. I was like, it felt like a fucking serial killer was gonna stab you in the neck, you know. But like seeing Deicide, you're like, okay, it's spooky band.
That's really funny because I remember being disappointed about Crossed Out.
Really, I would go see them and I'd be like, dude, Tad and well, fucking Tad looked insane, and then Dallas, the singer, I was like, dude, those guys look like they're gonna fucking kill you.
They looked like, I don't know. I just remember like Dave Astor and I were like, oh yeah, they're gonna go fucking crazy on stage. You're gonna be flying around. It's gonna be amazing. And they totally didn't. And I was like, what? Yeah. Because at that point we had, our other band, Evolved as One, had no songs. And we would just play open mic night and just roll around till everything broke. And we were just like nuts. At that
sort
point.
of like Aniakero at the time, but they had songs.
But they had songs.
But they were like going nuts. Like it was more about a performance.
Yeah. I guess I might have seen Anti-Era before Crossed Out, and that's why I was just like, oh.
You think everything needs to be up that? That's the bar,
Bar.
Yeah, fucking high one right away.
It's kind of weird though, because nowadays, I guess it's much later. Like someone had like said like something to me. I can't remember who said it. It was like years ago, but they were just like, oh, like Locust is like a testosterone band. Like people just like get all jockey and like start like mosh pits and stuff. And I hadn't ever perceived it like that because I always kind of felt like people were just having a good time or like, and I didn't really equate it with like the death metal circle pit type stuff. But it did kind of bum me out because I hadn't really thought about that. I was like, I don't want to just be like promoting testosterone, brutal behavior, you know? And so my whole opinion on like bands have to go crazy and there has to be all this, you have to like smash into shit. And like at some point, like I just like I thought about it, I'm like, you don't need to do that. And then I had a bunch of pedals, so then I couldn't run around. I had to like, all right, got
so you had this like these feelings during the Locust.
Yeah, it was at some point. I can't remember what year or when, but it I just hadn't ever thought about that, and I was just like, well, shit, I don't want to be promoting macho behavior, but
that's jockism.
That's fucking crazy because so when we went on tour with Dillinger Escape Plan, and this is no disrespect to Dillinger Escape Plan, and I think they wanted us on tour for the very reason that we were kind of upset with some of their fan base. Like they wanted like the weirdos and the nerd, like the fucking strange whatever we were, and not the fucking jock like beating each other up kind of shit. And for me, like on that tour, I remember thinking like, fuck, we gotta like figure out where we are in this world and like where our place is. And we remember we got more like robotic and angular and weirder, and we tried to just be like, I don't know what it was, but I think we also consciously were already addressing like us wearing uniforms and being like this sort of like I don't know what artsy homoerotic like kind of fuck you to hardcore, and that I think we had all these like ideas bubbling up to some extent, but even up to like right now, so many people have come to me and said, seeing the Locust as a queer person or as a trans kid or just like an outsider helped me feel safe and gave me a voice and made me feel comfortable and like all this fucking rad shit. Like more than a lot of people have said that to me, and so I'm like, fuck, we really might have been doing that without even consciously like knowing that we were making it, because we were kind of against that shit.
Well, we would kind of like regulate the pit if someone was getting too crazy. Usually you'd be like, hey, stop that guy, what's up with this guy, like stop pushing women in the pit or whatever
they were just bullshit.
So there's definitely a difference between like probably like a hardcore show or the Locust show compared to like a Deicide show, so there already was a difference. I probably, and Dillinger Escape Plan, I mean, also, it's like, I love Ben freaking out. It's freaking awesome. Yeah. Like, that's rad.
But Ben freaking out is a performance, but the audience just acting like a fucking meathead is like not necessarily that great. Like, Ben, most of the time, didn't infringe on your physical well-being.
Right. Unless it's a guitar that flies
On
into Ross's
accident.
face.
On accident. Yeah. Oof. Yeah.
Explain that.
Guitar flew into Ross's face.
Yeah. I think they've even like tried to fuck with people, whatever. We don't need to get into the Dillinger realm, but like I think for us, we were constantly trying to kind of reframe a different vision or our vision of hardcore or punk. I don't know. But so at some point we made a huge shift. You definitely made a huge shift. I mean, I think of like, going from Locust to maybe Holy Molar, which was a joke band, and then now INUS, which is like fully weirdo, like technical. I mean, you couldn't even mosh to that if you wanted to.
Yeah, probably not.
Math mosh.
Perhaps. But I mean,
that should be a genre right there.
Yeah, math mosh. That'd be cool.
You can take
like,
it.
Yeah, it's like 2 steps this way, this way. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now lunge.
Octagon.
Yeah. But I mean, that was like decades. Because then I got into weird shit. But that was, we're talking about a stretch of decades here. So at some point, like I heard the Residents, and then that was kind of like the Beatles of weird music.
Yeah.
So I had the Beatles,
so the Beatles
of death metal, the Beatles of like, I don't know, West Coast power violence crossed out.
Yeah.
And then then the Beatles of weird, the Residents, and then tried to bring in weird. In fact, that's what I mean, we've said this before, but like, like we would talk about trying to be like a brutal DEVO or a brutal Residents.
Yeah.
Like trying to come up with song ideas.
I mean, those 3 bands that you just listed are like essentially the Locust.
Yeah. It's like, what would a brutal Residents do? Like, well, they would probably do something crazy. What would it sound like? Sound like this.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Got the next part.
Okay, so I would like to talk about your insane musical technical ability, sort of based off of the recent stuff you did with Fender and people fucking freaking out and being dicks in the comment section, which I thought was great, but I also like know that negative shit like that it affects everybody. It's like, man, you can be a dick and a troll or whatever, but like, and be joking or whatever, but like after a while, it's like, man, all those people that are talking shit can't do what you do. I'm gonna say that. Like, you can say whatever, but like, I'm gonna say like, anyone that's listening to this, if you're a motherfucker that talks some shit on the comment section of those Fender things, you can't do it, and that's why you're talking shit. Because I feel like if you had the ability to do it, you wouldn't be like, let me go on there and like log in and be like, this guy is doing this dumb thing, blah blah blah. You would just be like, I can do that, and that's the extent of it. So it's a fucking trip.
Yeah, I don't give a shit what people think, honestly. Like, whatever. Like, in fact, when I was asked to do that, I was like, oh, what's the most fucked up thing I can do?
Oh, so you were like going for it.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course, dude.
I didn't know.
I was like, what? How can I like? I was like, okay, yeah. And so, I mean, because they wanted me to do 2 things. One was like a beginner one, so I was like the pick tapping thing.
Yeah.
And that was pretty easy. And some people got upset about that one. I'm like, anybody can do this. And then someone's like, stop lying, that's a hard technique. And because they're thinking like this other technique. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And then,
but the way you presented yourself was very professional.
Mm-hmm.
You speak very well, and you it was done very well.
Well,
and
thanks.
So
I've been teaching for 10 years.
If I was a coming up, in the music business or whatever, if I was like starting my band, I'm like, that's fucking insane, like, I mean, I don't know, like, I'm sure like Anthony thought that the crossed out riffs were real hard, and you were like, no, it's just three power chords. So people are probably like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? I can't do that, but you can.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I took it as like an opportunity to like what can I do? Like, I wanted to add a word to the vernacular of guitar player and guitar technique, because there wasn't a term for the thing that I wanted to talk about, which is basically like finger tapping, but holding one note while you're doing it.
Oh, and the second one.
Yeah, so like you're holding one note on the fret, holding a note, sustaining it, and then like tapping on the other strings that are not being sustained. And I was surprised. I started looking into it. I was like, well, there's got to be a term for this. And I kept looking into it, like asking people, asking like guitar teachers that I knew, or friends. And like there was nothing. And so it was like, the closest thing was pedal tone for guitar, but it wasn't exactly the same thing. And so I hijacked that term and then added a technique to it, with kind of the intent to kind of stir some shit up, based on the technique.
So what did you call it?
Pedal tone for a guitar, which is, pedal tone for like organ players. They have like the pedal thing. You hold a tone down or note that's like part of a scale.
Yeah.
and then you like play on top of it. And so for guitar, some people talk like pedal tone for guitar, like guitar, like metal guitar, where you keep strumming the E, like chun, 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 chun. And so that's kind of like you're maintaining that note over and over and over, and then playing other notes. But this really wasn't quite made for what I was doing. But that's what I do. I try to throw a wrench in the whole fucking thing and then see what happens. So I was kind of stoked that people
should have put your name in the description. The Bray technique. That would have pissed a lot of people off.
That's true. Oh shit. Yeah,
or like the Locust or something, or INUS. That'd be good, like an INUS. The INUS tone.
The anus tone. Taint tone.
People probably would have been like, "Yeah, that sounds about right."
That's taint. I know taint when I hear it.
Oh man. Okay, so I want to shift into something that's probably gonna take this is like the shit. Everything you do musically is awesome, and you're fucking insane and in a beautiful, wonderful way. But your teaching is wild. So like, I don't even know if you can talk about some of this stuff, but like how you're trying to like, you've told me that that you think somehow you're kind of like gonna destroy the system from the inside.
Well, okay.
We can cut that out if we need to, but
well, I mean, okay. So I started teaching at this place called the Art Institute of California, and that place was a little bit questionable, mostly just because it was overpriced. It was like it was like a accredited place. People get bachelor's degrees and stuff, but it cost like $100,000 for people. And I was like, I could be Einstein teaching physics, and it would be too much, And so I always felt like this crazy pressure. And so I first got hired to teach the experimental sound practices course. And so then I was doing that, and that was cool. And then like something changed, and so that class didn't exist anymore in their whole structure. And I was like, all right, well, see you guys later. They're like, well, no, now that we hired you, like teach some other classes. And then they decided they were going to have 3 business classes. And I was like, oh, this is my chance to like fuck this place up. And I was like, I'll teach one of those business classes, And then, because it was like, I did do some, when the Locust, like we got, we had to eventually incorporate, and we started radio surgery upon Molly's great sage wisdom, which was a great idea because it was really just to do accounting and shit, and just to have things work properly. And so for some reason, like I was thrust into that like position to like deal with the onset of that. And so I'd like, okay, well, I can talk about that, like the structure and how to do all that stuff, but also I can throw a wrench in this institution, which was my main goal. So then it was like, okay, well shit, if I'm gonna like throw a wrench, then I have to like cover all the normal stuff properly. So then I had to really like dive into that.
So it's like real, like just basic business 101.
Essentially, yeah. But for the music
if
industry.
You want to be a music,
copyright law and like BMI, and of course now that's like the streaming royalty, Sound Exchange, and Mechanical Licensing Collective, which is like the new entity for streaming, which is just still kind of a big mess. I talk a lot of shit about Spotify.
Yeah, good.
But the
they'll you can hear if you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, you fucking fucked up, man.
I mean, well, what's fucked up is like so the Music Modernization Act passed, and it passed unanimously in Congress, which is like nothing. Only thing that unifies Congress is like war and music, I guess. So, and it got signed into law, and so then they had to because it was like there was too many lawsuits. It was just all a big mess. Like this is always the problem with like law is like technology outpaces like how fast laws can change, and so whenever that happens, it just leaves a big fucking mess. And so that's what was happening. And as much as I talk shit about Spotify, it's like it wasn't really great for them either, because it was just every time it'd be a court case with every single person.
For Spotify.
Yeah. And so then the Music Modernization Act passed, which then basically set it so that the Copyright Royalty Board, panel 3 judges, sets the rates for streaming royalties. And so they did that, and then Spotify and like Amazon and like a few other big dudes like were just like, we're contesting this new law. There's no precedent for this. It's like, of course, this is brand new. It's a new law. It's a new streaming royalty. Like, of course, it hasn't been done before. They had to update the law for this, you jerks. So like that really got my goat when Spotify did that. And it wasn't just them. Apple Music didn't, but Apple's certainly not perfect. There's, yeah. Anyway, So anyway, Art Institute. I taught at that place, and then it went down because of some weird
some
shit.
teacher that was
Well,
there.
It was another campus. No, it was another campus.
I was saying it's him.
Another campus like
It went down from the inside out.
Well, no, I cannot take credit for it. But there was like another campus where the admissions department like promised jobs to people, and you can't do that. So it really caused this whole thing. And then Goldman Sachs like sold it, and then like it just went through a bunch of different people, started buying and selling it until finally it was just done. I mean, just the whole thing was fine. It was just overpriced. Like the education was fine. Like the people were cool. The teachers were cool. You know, students were fine too. But it was.
But the students could have used $100,000 and did something else.
Yeah, like it should have been half that price.
They could have put out all their own band's records. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I teach at a cool place, Studio Westland Recording Arts Center.
That place is fucking sick.
That place is cool. Like the owner's super cool. It's mom and pop. It's not some huge corporation somewhere else controlling it.
So the students that go there, how does that work?
They.
I mean, do they get credit, or like how like is it like a?
It's a recording arts diploma, so it's like a diploma in recording arts.
Okay.
So and you know it's the one of the largest commercial studios in San Diego, and it's a school. So it's like not the other way around, you know, which is how a lot of those places are. It's like a school, and a little like little console over here.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
So it's like, you know, they have an SSL. It's freaking awesome, and like it's just a great place. It's totally different. And it's kind of like I kind of like joked with the owner. I'm like, oh, you're cleansing my soul from AI. Like, thanks for like helping me, you know. And it's funny because now it's like I do teach a bunch of other classes there. I teach like psychoacoustics and experimental sound practices and live sound. But I am teaching a business class there too, and it's just, which is, you know, it's kind of like the joke is on me. Like I did it to kind of like subvert another institution, and now, you know, there I am teaching it at a cool place.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like I had to really dive into the subject so I could cover it well, so that I could then talk shit about Spotify. You know,
Is that, you think that? I mean,
my
not
Justified.
to dumb it down, but do you think that's like the ultimate like point? Is like not for you to say like I'm gonna fucking talk shit about Spotify as my class, but like that seems like a pretty substantial thing. Everyone references Spotify. That's like the go-to thing now. So like, it's
not just them, but you know, it's like Tidal was kind of, you know, at least artists started from the beginning, and then you know, I mean, I don't know. It's a weird time for music, for streaming music, and it's never going to be the way it was. It's actually just crazy how, I don't know. I have to, like, the first thing I do to the students is I just tell them, like, I hope I don't mean to burst your bubble, but I'm going to tell you the truth about shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're expecting like a bunch of royalties to like, you're going to like live and you're going to be like driving Ferraris or whatever. It's like those days it's like the industry's totally changed. Infrastructure is totally different.
Yeah.
Like, back in the day, there used to be Tower Records. There used to be a place called Sam Goody in the warehouse, and you'd go in and you buy actual music in physical format, you know, but you know, because that's gone, you know, like the major record labels that would be like, oh sure, like 1 out of every 20 albums, like it does really great, offsetting the 19 that like flopped or didn't recoup, and that payoff was so good that they would be willing to invest in all the other 19 that didn't. So it was cool. Studios got money, engineers got money, producers got money, even bands made some money. But and so I have to like, you know, tell students like, hey, like if you're thinking about those days, like you need to get that out of your head, because that's not today.
What do you think about now too? Because like I feel like the ability to record for much cheaper, if not free, is there for everybody.
Yes.
And then that gives this weird. So it's almost like it's almost like the industry was like so upset about Napster. So they're like, how can we reframe Napster to be Spotify, to where there's still like this capitalistic endeavor and everyone gets fucked still, you know, because like, I mean, the listeners get their shit for free still, but like the artists get paid nothing, you know?
Yeah, it's a fucked up situation.
It's a legal version of it that's like still capitalizing for somebody.
Well, I mean, most of the subscriptions, it's subscription based, so people are paying into it. So it's not the ad supported streams. That the majority of it is the subscription based. So like Spotify, the Spotifys of the world, the DSPs, they are getting like money, and they're just not supplying it to the people who put the blood, sweat, and tears into creating and rehearsing and putting all that effort and emotion into making the art the main product that they're benefiting from.
Yeah.
And then, so the law now is like they're supposed to be the DSPs. They're supposed to be giving 15% of their total revenue. So it's not like a fraction of a cent per stream, like it is for non-interactive. So like satellite radio and like Pandora, where you can't rewind or pause or fast forward. That stuff gets collected by Spotify, and that's a set rate. Like the Copyright Royalty Board sets it like a 0.0025 cents, right? But for the mechanical, so the Mechanical Licensing Collective, and this is what's really fucking crazy to me, is like, for the new law to come into place, they consider non-interactive streaming and interactive streaming, which is like Spotify, where you can pause, rewind, fast forward, and all the other DSPs that do that. They consider those things separate. Like one is like generates a performance royalty, and then one generates mostly a mechanical royalty. So it's like, and the history of mechanicals is from a player piano roll from like the early 1900s. So it's like, what are we going to do? How are we going to how is the copyright owner going to make money from this if it was a sale of a thing? Because normally you had to play the thing live, right? And like, well, let's invent the mechanical like royalty. It's like, okay, cool. But now it's basically like, so you're telling me that a player piano roll is more similar to a stream on Spotify than a stream on Spotify is to a stream on Pandora. Like, that's the world we live in. It's fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
It's weird, So, yeah, it's just a weird world.
Well, it's weird because I would love to just be like, well, fuck you, Spotify. I'm not putting anything up there. But the benefit of being on Spotify is insane. Everyone's going to hear your band
it's ubiquitous.
there. Yeah, you can't bring it down. I mean, unless you're fucking Justin Bieber or something, it's fine. But otherwise, like, you're just going to screw yourself. Like, you just have to like hope for fucking t-shirt sales, I don't know, like. Yeah,
that's another one of my things I say in the class is like the music industry is actually the fashion industry in disguise. It's like, sell shirts. Like, if you're trying to make money from recorded music, like you're doomed. Like, you gotta, like, you can't do that. Play a bunch of shows and sell shirts if you're an artist. But I mean, because the school I teach at, it's like for engineers and producers and stuff. So it's like, I don't know. It's just tricky. Like, how do you make it work? But you were saying like the technology. So that's the thing about how like Pro Tools and like all the other DAWs that exist, Logic and Nuendo and everything. It's like that didn't exist before. So it's like the technology. It's like it's a double-edged sword. Like it makes it fucked up in one way, but then it's also good in another way because you have the tools that are available to anyone. So the barrier for entry, like you don't have to like have an SSL console or a Neve. You can have Pro Tools or Logic, and then you can have like plugins, and then you can like make good sounding things. And the other trick, of course, is that you have to have the skill to do that. So either you teach yourself or you go to school or whatever, but that's the one missing ingredient, of course.
I'm still trying to figure out the skill part of that.
It's a never-ending process.
Well, that's interesting too, because like I think like maybe in 2017 or 2018 or something, Mike Crane from Dead Cross and Retox and stuff, he bought a Neve console and was trying to learn it, and record. And I think he sold it and he just went digital because it's just easier and practical.
Yeah, I remember
I remember that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I remember when Alex Newport, because the Locust, we were all like super analog. We were just like, 2-inch reel, like it's got to be tape, like first, and then like, and Alex Newport, who recorded the Locust albums, like he played Soundscape and New Erections, but he had made that. We liked him. That was in part because of that, and then he made that change. Yeah, and we were like, "What, dude? Yeah, no,"
because he was all like hyped on tape op and all that. But the thing was like, because he was struggling with it, and I remember we did Plague Soundscapes, all analog, everything. We're like, "This is fucking beautiful. Let's do Safety Second Body Last." Okay, but your budget's $5,000. We can't do that unless you want to go digital. And we're like, well, we either go digital with Alex or we go record somewhere else, and it's just not gonna be with Alex. So we made the exception because we didn't have a budget, because all that analog stuff was so expensive.
The tapes even so much.
I mean, now I think for Plague Soundscapes we were at the tail end of like bands getting decent recording budgets. Like we like got the very last one, I think, that was given out.
Yeah. It's nuts. Yeah. And also too, like, so I remember being, so I got my bachelor's at UCSD, it was like a music program, and the studio director, Tom Erb, like super awesome guy. He like make noise modules. He's like super well respected, like, and super old school dude also.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, okay, oh dude, analog, right? And he's like, yeah. But finally, like, going through that program, going through those classes, and it finally came to this one conversation I had with him, and he's like, well, Bobby, the sample rate has exceeded what the human ear can detect. Like,
oh yeah,
it's just you can emulate analog. If you like analog so much, you can just emulate it theoretically. There's plugins that can kind of do it. So, and like that was it. So I was like Alex Newport and Tom Erb, and I was like, all right, that's it. The game's up. But it's a digital world.
As much as I would like to still be analog purist, like, it was really the financial aspect of it. It was like you couldn't keep going, because we were trying to we were recording with Dan Meyer over at that place on Elkhorn Boulevard. Like, we did like some Holy Molar stuff, and I think Headwind City, and it was like kind of analog.
I think it's Pro Design or
Sound Design. I don't know what it was called, but anyhow, it doesn't matter. But we were still trying to, like, it's still kind of, it's like on tape. And it was just so fucking expensive, still, like, for us, expensive, which isn't, like, it's just like, well, we can't do it. It just wasn't working. But it's weird because like, Ross Robinson's pretty interesting, because he records everything onto tape and then immediately dumps it, and then edits and mixes it that way.
Best of both worlds.
Oh, yeah.
That's the other thing too, where people, sometimes that's what happens in Studio West. People just like, they rent out Studio A and they just run their Pro Tools tracks through the SSL just to get that studio warm.
Mike Camus does that.
Oh, yeah.
He's done that for me too. We just gave him we just went all the outs into his. We didn't even run it through the tape itself. We just ran it through the machine to master it.
Like what, Sonito?
No, this was that D Styles and Unite project we did.
Oh shit.
Yeah, to get just the tape master feel.
It really is something. But you can emulate it.
You can emulate it theoretically. It's just that digital is just too good. Is the problem? It's the imperfection of tape. It's like ions. It's like magnetic. It's like it is a different thing. As opposed to like samples, where it's like you're making a jagged thing. But the sample rate is just so many samples per second that there's no way you can perceive that. You could just you can emulate.
There are people that'll say like, there's like this. I don't know. People say like that white vinyl is like a lesser quality than other colored vinyl or black vinyl. I guess it's weird. Like, I've heard of
it has less soul.
That too. Yeah, it is white. But well, then you would think clear would be the worst, right? Because there's like no pigment in it. But it's like, white vinyl's
start
cool.
That rumor here and now. Clear vinyl is the worst.
It's the worst.
No pigment.
But but we put out white vinyl records, and I've A-B'd like white and red and black, and I'm like, it's fucking the same thing. I don't know what people are talking about. It's so weird. So it is kind of strange, because at one point you could tell like that's a digital recording and that's an analog recording. At this point, there's no fucking way. There's no way you could be. I don't think I could be certain all the time.
Yeah,
there's no way.
Yeah,
there's just no fucking way.
Let's test it out.
But like, also too, like, going back to the Spotify thing, at some point everything's so fucking degraded and put up and you're listening to it on your fucking phone, and while you're taking a shit in the bathroom, like, it doesn't really. Yeah. Who cares where you recorded that?
That is the other issue, especially like, back to the education thing, because it's like we live in bubbles, we're in silos. We're just like, you can make decisions and go, okay, people are gonna want the better quality thing, and then it's like, well. Yeah, people are taking a shit while they're listening to music, or they're like whatever, like cleaning up the house, vacuuming, or doing dishes, and it's like you're not even hearing
all
the
the
quality was.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened back in the day? People used to sit down and listen to music. You would listen to the sounds.
I have done that, and I still do that, and I dedicate it. I want to sit down and enjoy this, But I also will just put something on and listen to it.
Oh, sure.
As well.
Yeah.
My dad used to make us do that as kids. He would sit down. We would all have to sit down, and he would play his vinyl. But I was all into heavy metal, and he'd be playing like Teddy Pendergrass. And I appreciate it now. But back then, I was like, fuck.
So it worked.
But no, I fucking totally appreciate it. And I slowly got back into it. Now that I took my record collection home, I've slowly kind of just got back into just listening to records without anything else on, you know?
Yeah.
I think ultimately maybe like it's all, and I guess this could, I think this probably I could speak for all of us here to some extent. Like I feel like we've all kind of approached music with a financial disability, and so we find ways to get around things and do things that could by some standards be looked at as innovative and some standards be looked at as asinine, and maybe they're both, you know, but your tools are limited, but also your tools are what you can come up with, you know, and whatever that is. It could be anything, you know, the ability to accomplish and create something. Like when we first started hanging out, you tell me about how you would grab samples that you put fucking thumbtacks through the wires to make it sound jacked up and weird and shitty in a cool way. But like now it's like there's a fucking some plugin for that someone's gonna want to achieve it. But you were just like, oh, what's this fucking thing do, you know, like something as I don't know what that term is. Like, you couldn't even say it's like lowbrow or caveman. That's just like fucking crazy shit.
Yeah, I call it being high.
There's that, yeah, yeah.
But no, but it was just, we were fucking broke and poor and just utilized whatever we had, and we are like, let's just try to make some weird shit and like a new sound. People for fucking years thought, and still do, were always asking me, what pedals do you use? And I'm like, I don't use any fucking pedal. And they're like, how do you get that dirty sound? And I'm like, I'm not buying $20 James Brown records. I'm at the 50-cent bin buying all those scratched up fucking records, all those ones that nobody wants, the 25-cent shit. That's what I'm using. I'm using all the junk shit that nobody else wants. And that's how my sound is. Everybody
to sample a junk kick, scratched, dirty vinyl.
Yep. And layer them. And everybody thought, like, what pedal is that? What's this? And then I would just fuck with them and just lie and just, like, lead them
the
down
reverse
the wrong. And then they would go buy the equipment and spend, like, $1,000 and be like, sorry, you just wasted $1,000. You could have just spent 75 cents at the fucking swap meet and bought 3 of those records and a thumbtack.
Oh man, but yeah, there's certainly a lot to be said too about the limitations too. Like if you can't get all the stuff, like you have to make do with what you have, and whatever that is, I mean, that can be the thing that drives an innovation. You know,
yeah.
It's like, and that's like across the board in anything really.
Yeah.
I mean, that even happens, like. When we're out of groceries at home, we're like, well, shit, we don't have time to go to the grocery store. Like, all right, so then I invent new shit, like the veggie burger taco. It's like you take a veggie patty, cut it in half. It's like you make 2 tacos out of that. It's fucking awesome. I never would have thought of that if I hadn't like run out of bread and you know, and like now it's like that's on the menu. Like, that's like, you know,
that's a Mexican thing, huh?
Veggie burger taco? That's the Bobby thing.
That's
that sounds whiter.
That's you living in PB, like half Mexican, half white.
I guess so. I'm the living embodiment of that. Yeah, I really want to make a vegan dolphin fin quesadilla.
Yeah,
but
you've been talking about that one for
I
a
know.
minute.
I haven't had the chance, I guess.
There is this place, what's the name? I can never fucking, I'm gonna sound like a racist asshole. The Tai Ching Che place? The like ramen, the place over on Elkhorn Boulevard. How the fuck do you say it?
I don't know how
we should give them props. No, it's Vietnamese. It's
Vietnamese.
Tai Ching Tay is what I think. It's something like that. But they have like vegan, like crazy shit, like vegan squirrel, and I mean they don't, but like, you know, just you're like, what the fuck? Who has that? Like vegan pig intestine? Like, can't you just call it something else? I don't know. It's weird, but yeah. So there's that. But the drug thing's cool. Like that, you know, being on drugs got you where you where you needed to go. But you know what's funny, because it always would come up with me where people would
full circle.
People would come up and say like, dude, everyone in the Locust must be so fucking sober and technically this and that. And I'm like, I'm the only one that was actually sober. Those motherfuckers were stoned all the time. And they're like, whoa, like how did they write like that? And I was like, I don't know. Like, to be honest, I'm like, I've never gotten to smoking weed or anything, but I was like, but I felt like the other 3 Locusts were like it never seemed like you were like high or not high. I was just like, these are my friends and we write music together and it's very technical and we're insane together and we'll like work on 20 seconds worth of music for 2 months and then scrap it and then start over, but everyone's like not thinking it was drugs and then like thinking, well, then you guys must have been fully fucking fucked up all the time on drugs because look at what you did, and I'm like, I don't know. It's such a weird thing to kind of throw that into the mix.
Those years, I guess it's just weed, It's,
It's funny not to keep going back to this band that I always do, but Pink Floyd. It's the same thing, like with Roger Waters. Everybody thought that they were fucking high, and he's like, nah. He was like, we smoked weed in the beginning, but doing all those other albums, they didn't smoke any weed. He was just like, I would have a Guinness here and there and write and record, but everybody thought they were all, just big old fucking potheads. And he was like, no, I didn't even smoke weed.
Well, the fan base certainly was target marketing there.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, you listen to it, definitely.
Well, I know someone that does a lot of drugs by themselves to write music only by themselves.
I should start a band with them. New side
all right, I got
project.
drugs. Everybody go away. I'm gonna just do this by myself. Yeah, this guy. We can cut that out if you want. We can definitely edit that out. Yeah, that was anyhow. So, Bobby as a whole accomplishing all this wild shit and now a teacher. I don't know what do you?
How do I keep saying? Bicycle riding. I ride bikes with a crew. So
I ran into you.
Oh yeah. They so the bike crew, it's Sam Lopez who like curates shows.
Do you
in
have
San
to be
Diego.
like a weirdo noise person?
It's open to anybody, but it just happens to be that
All
those are
weirdo
only
noise
people
people.
that see the Instagram posts like, hey, we're riding bikes, and it's just like, it's called Street Creep. This is the crew, and it's like, I don't know, 10 of us usually, and we do these like 20, 30-mile rides, and it's freaking so awesome. It's like my favorite thing.
Ollie is in it, right?
Oh yeah, she does it.
When does it happen?
Sundays.
Once a week usually. Sometimes we miss a week depending
Sunday
on if
evenings?
there's like events or something. Usually day, but we do evenings too.
The sun's too.
We're
brutal,
actually
dude.
doing next week. We're doing evening actually.
I want to do it, dude.
Saturday.
Can I get hip to
Sunday
this?
night.
You have a bike?
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. I actually just got a trailer for Captain, so maybe I could do like. Can he come with me?
If so, yeah. And we're a no drop crew, so we always wait for people. Because sometimes, like some people are on beach cruises, or we did like Mount Helix, which is like this really crazy.
Yeah.
That's like the steepest ride you can do in San Diego.
Yeah. Do you like in all kinds of bikes? So it's some people get fucked up.
Some people get fucked up.
Yeah.
But it's we wait and stuff. It's really cool though. But it's like all these like experimental noise musicians, and then we just have crazy conversations, and it's freaking awesome. I actually kind of led one ride, and it was like a Kumeyaay awareness ride. So it was like themed. Kumeyaay is like the Native Americans of San Diego before the shit went down. And but there's all these like spots.
Wait, shit went down?
Yeah,
No,
slaughter,
I'm joking.
death,
Yeah, I know.
murder, like it was cool. Like, and there was like, so I kind of like looked into the history, and I was like trying to find spots that we could stop at, and like we always do like a lot of like graveyard stuff, and like there's always like a lot of deaths involved and stuff. And it's like Sam Lopez is into graveyards.
So do you travel to a place in cars and then bike, or how does that work?
We usually meet at like Old Town Transit Center, and so some people bike there, some people drive there, but then we'll do like the 20, 30-mile ride and then end there.
Oh, cool.
But like, so one of the places that we went to was like this property up in La Jolla, and like, so La Jolla, it's like the super rich, the richest area of San Diego.
It's where all the analog tapes are. All the analog machines.
And it's also where UCSD is, the university, where the Che Cafe is on that campus. But there's they have this property that's right on like the ocean front, like right there at the edge of the continent. And it's the chancellor's house, like the chancellor of the university. And it happens to be that on that property, there's like 30 bodies that were exhumed from like ancient Kumeyaay from like 9,000 years old. Whoa. And so it's like one of the oldest like graveyards in like North America. It's crazy. And there's no plaque, there's no nothing there. It's just like the chancellor's house. Like of UCSD, and there's this law where they're supposed to like give back like any Native American things they find, especially on UC campuses, and so they've had to like give back these bodies to be put into the ground, you know, in other places. But it's like the oldest graveyard in San Diego is definitely there, and it's the freaking on the property of the Chancellor's House of UCSD, and which is the weird and the icing on the cake. So it's like, you know, Native American bodies, you know, but the icing on the cake is that the chancellor right now is Indian American, as in from India, the country, not Indian. You know? It's like, because when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, it's I'm like, oh no, not. I'm like, that would have been a great thing of like, you know, a Native American.
So can you go onto their property like as some sort of?
No, it's totally fenced off.
Oh
like,
yeah,
it's like a house on this really super expensive.
So
plot
you
of land.
you rode down your bike and you're like, fuck this guy, and then that's it.
Yeah, you know, we sat. I did my little like history lesson and we talked about it, and then we moved on to the next spot.
He's all looking out. He's all looking out the blinds, like, what the fuck are these noise artists doing outside here?
Well, there's definitely cameras, so I'm sure they saw us.
Yeah.
We're Sam calls us the bad news bears of bike crews. We're just like ragamuffins cruising around.
Sure.
So they saw ragamuffins. Like, what are they doing at the property line?
Yeah.
Get away from the UCSD property, Chancellor House. Yeah. I don't know.
Try it in your Locust uniform next time.
Oof.
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
I don't know. That would be bad. I think you'd probably just get arrested right away.
That'd be too high. I want to ride around that.
There you have it. That was episode 33. 33. We would like to thank Bobby Bray for being on our podcast, making it a little bit more awesome this time than it normally is. Thank you very much. Check out INUS, his current band. They're insane, to say the least. Check out our other episodes, streaming wherever you stream podcasts from.
Shitty podcast.
No, there's probably good podcasts where they stream ours from. Check it out.
What podcast do you listen to?
I can't tell you. It's top secret. Check out our other episodes. Support us, please. We need help. Support the people that are on our podcast. They're all brilliant. And we appreciate you. We appreciate Andy and Becky for helping us out. Ruinous Media. And yeah.
Earthquaker Devices.
Earthquaker always.
Yeah.
And we might as well give a shout out to
Jamie
Fender, Heartwork,
Yep.
Bifocal, again, check them out, Bifocal Media.
And Kindred.
Kindred, if you're in San Diego, go eat at Kindred, best restaurant.
And last but not least, the free veggies.
Oh, dude. Okay, so Food Shed, support your local farmers. If you're in San Diego, check out Food Shed. They have a delivery service for organic vegetables. Rika, he's one of the homies. Man, they're so rad. And, you know, supporting local farmers is probably the sort of like most basic key ingredient to everything. Survival,
the
community.
Eggplant is off the fucking... I love the eggplant. And right now their tomatoes, their little cherry tomatoes are fucking to die for.
Yeah. If you're in San Diego, it's in City Heights. Food Shed, mobile food market. Take care.
Colton Culture is proudly sponsored by Earthquaker Devices, Fender, and Heartwork Coffee.
Planet B.